Wyndham is strongly committed to hiring military veterans and military spouses, as these men and women bring a unique skill set that fit well with our culture and bring our values of hospitality to life. We have partnered with organizations like Hiring Our Heroes and the Military Spouse Employment Partnership to foster stronger relationships with the military community and remain mindful of not only the challenges they encounter when seeking employment, but also the value they bring to many organizations just like ours.
So my career journey as a military spouse has been adventurous, I would say. It started when I was 18. I was in college at the time, and we did our best to balance what my career goals were along with supporting my spouse. Trying to finish school during that time and then having moments where I needed to work also was pretty difficult. When it all came down to it, the main goal was to have my spouse obviously have a career after the military, and then myself as well. So it did kind of all work out in the end, but I would say between 11 deployments that we went through, I would say it was adventurous, I felt supported, and once I was contacted by looking into Wyndham for an opportunity, I was surprised and I felt supported from day one.
My career journey started with when my husband joined the Army in 2009. Over the time, I learned that we are part of a very unique and understanding community. We help each other through tough times, and they help us with just anything that we need. And I'm just grateful to be a part of such a great community.
And with 9,000 hotels across nearly 90 countries around the world, we're actually the perfect fit for a military family and a military spouse, because just like we say to our guests, there's a Wyndham waiting for you. It's the same from an employment perspective.
What it's been like to be a veteran and a diverse woman, T-Mobile sees it as my superpower. And then if you look at someone like me, I am a Black gay woman, over the age of 40, I'm a military vet, and I have a child with a disability. And so when I get to come to work, I get to be who I am, and all of those things are embraced. And it puts a different kind of shine and spin on loving what you do. I can say that T-Mobile's undying commitment to really focus on creating the best experience for customers and its employees truly, in my opinion, makes it one of the best places to work.
The Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Fellowship Program provides the professional development and direct connection to local employers that spouses need to succeed. It's a win-win.
So I actually started my fellowship with Booz Allen Hamilton on the military recruiting team. The fellowship was the first time where the military spouse identity that I had been carrying that almost felt like a burden, felt like a shiny gold cape. It was for the first time on its own a value add that I didn't have to explain. It was just me, Kimmy, and what I brought professionally. And that is not a dynamic that I have experienced at all since I've been part of the military world. And that was game-changing for me.
You don't just get to see the resume, you get to see the person. And this is an opportunity to really get to know individuals who are part of this fellowship program for everything that they bring.
The things you just pick up naturally in the military lifestyle, like planning, management, prioritizing, all of that can be distilled into legitimate business processing.
Her ability to take this fellowship as a springboard to realize more potential has been incredibly exciting for us both.
We didn't even realize how much overall family security we were going to gain by me working. The doors that have opened for retirement, paying for school for our future children, so many other things that were definitely a lot more stressful have just now presented themselves with more ease. The dynamic in the whole household had already changed of me being a lot more happy, fulfilled, having my own identity.
It's an opportunity to create your own path, not your spouse's path.
Now I have the capability of being the provider for the family or growing within that role and maybe even transitioning out of the traditional roles we've been holding. It's a totally different discussion we have when we come together about that.
It leaves me extremely grateful to Hiring Our Heroes for these opportunities and for our family.
That is the peace of mind we were not able to predict. We had not foreseen would be a dynamic between us. And it's a type of feeling that I wish everybody could have. It just lets you sleep just that much better at night.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tina Brown, and I want to welcome you to the 4th Annual Military Spouse Employment Summit. I'm thrilled to be your MC today. There are almost 1 million military spouses in this country. Over 90% of them are female. Smart, educated, hardworking men and women who have their own skills to contribute and their own careers to build, even as they raise their kids and hold down the fort at the military bases. Today, we're going to put these individuals center stage. Also joining us are the companies that realized long ago what a powerful labor force these men and women are, plus new employers looking to bring new talent onto their own teams. Also with us are community leaders, military installation teams, and policymakers, all of whom know that military spouses move forward, and when they do, we all advance. So let's get started. I'd like to start now by introducing Eric Eversole. He's a vice president at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and president of Hiring Our Heroes, a phenomenal program from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation.
Thank you for that introduction, Tina. Good afternoon and welcome to this year's Military Spouse Employment Summit. Today is going to be a great day, and I'm so thrilled that you could join us. Together with our partners like USAA, Booz Allen Hamilton, Google.org, and Grow with Google, T-Mobile, Toyota, Deloitte, Prudential, La Quinta by Wyndham, Capital One, Augusta Technical College, and Comcast NBC Universal, we continue the fight to improve military spouse employment opportunities from both the national and grassroots level. Today, we have a tremendous agenda that will reveal how military spouses, employers, and community leaders continue to adapt, evolve, and lead as we empower military spouses on their search for meaningful careers. With that, I'm going to kick it back to Tina.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, let's hear from Meredith, director of the Military Spouse Program, whose team put together today's fantastic event.
Thanks so much, Tina. More than ever, we have gotten a glimpse into what it truly means to be a military spouse, juggling video calls with our pets in the background, supporting our children's education while balancing our own job requirements, and demonstrating what it's like to be America's premier remote workforce, all while supporting our service members. It has been a very human year, one that brought us together and for a moment gave military spouses a chance to show the world that their daily perseverance through uncharted, ever-changing waters is one all Americans can navigate with a little grit and a lot of grace. I know 2020 will result in legitimate and meaningful steps forward for military spouse employment. I can't wait to hear from our speakers and panelists today, as well as showcase a powerful tool designed specifically for military spouses, employers, and the community supporters. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Tina.
Thank you, Meredith. And now I want to introduce our first guest speaker, Harriet Dominique. Harriet joins us from USAA, an organization synonymous with military spouse employment, also our presenting sponsor.
Thank you, Tina, Eric, and Hiring Our Heroes team. We are inspired by your leadership and by all that you do in support of military spouses. It's an honor to represent our USAA CEO, Wayne Peacock, and our 35,000 plus USAA employees. And we are grateful to serve as the presenting sponsor for today's summit, which is especially needed because of the challenging times we are facing today. With COVID-19 impacting nearly every aspect of our lives, USAA remains steadfast in our commitment to serving the military community and their families. We've done so for nearly 100 years. This is exactly what we're made for. And our commitment to improving military spouse employment has only strengthened in 2020. Like our spouses in the audience today, we are focused on resilience and innovation. We are encouraged by the progress that companies have made this year, progress that I'm confident will lead to long-term and far-reaching improvements in military spouse employment. Now, The issue of racial injustice has pierced our nation's consciousness. At USAA, we are listening and learning and on our journey to embrace and champion equity for all. During today's summit, we will hear an important and timely conversation surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion. Incredibly important dialogue to address the fact that many times military spouses are underrepresented in the workplace. Our guest speakers will explore military spouses, the workplace, and policy change. I'm very excited and look forward to listening and learning. In closing, I challenge each one of us to take away at least 2 golden nuggets from today's summit to learn and share with a colleague or friend. Together with Hiring Our Heroes, I can't think of any more powerful force for change than our military spouses. Thank you again for the opportunity. It truly is an honor. Thank you for all that you do in service to our nation. God bless you. Now let's begin the summit.
What a powerful message from Harriet and USAA. We must all be leaders and be willing to have challenging conversations, something we've each learned this year. Our next topic, setting the tone, inclusion and belonging in the workplace, is sponsored by Toyota, a company built on a fundamental respect for people and committed to equality and inclusivity for all. Let's hear from Michaela Pereira.
Thank you so much for introducing me. My name is Michaela Pereira, and I'm really thrilled to be here for the Military Spouse Employment Summit. Our big thanks to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and to Hiring Our Heroes for having us here. This handsome man beside me, I will introduce him, probably a familiar face to so many of you. Stephen Peters is the Director of Communications and Marketing for Modern Military Association of America. They asked us, Stephen, like no stress at all, honey, to talk about inclusion and diversity and the importance of belonging. And I think it kind of terrified you at first to talk about it. Why is that? Admit it to me. Come on.
Well, let's just be upfront about it. I mean, as a white guy, it's hard to be frank and relatable when it comes to talking about diversity and inclusion. I'm completely aware of the fact that as a white person, I'll never understand what it means to not feel included as a person of color, or to be treated differently because of the color of my skin.
Except,
so that's just, you know,
that's where you may not know what it's like to navigate this world in black or brown skin, right? But you do have a dog in this fight, my brother. Boy, do you. Because of the very work that you have been doing, you founded a group way back when that has been instrumental in achieving equality for gay men and women in the military. So you do have a dog in the fight. You know the importance of belonging and inclusion and being seen. And by the way, diversity, that is diversity in and of itself.
You're right. And it really, I know what it feels like not to feel included, and to go through a period where simply being yourself meant that you were excluded. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I came to the point in my life where I was finally ready to admit to myself and to others that I'm gay, which unfortunately that was during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which meant that suddenly I was unfit to serve. So I went from being a valued member of the team to suddenly being an outsider, somebody who wasn't worthy to wear the uniform simply because of who I was.
And Stephen, it makes you an ally, right? I mean, you know better than anybody the importance of having allies in any kind of fight, right? Especially, that's a word familiar in the military, but in social activism, it's just as vital. In terms of the work that you've been doing with MMAA, you need allies. In terms of diversity and having, Black and brown lives seen and valued, we need allies as well. That linking of arms, none of us can do this alone. We can understand and empathize with people if we have walked a mile in their shoes, if we allow people to tell their stories, right? We've heard a lot about this, controlling our own narratives, but by sharing our stories, I've always believed there's great power to that. other people can understand where we're coming from. I believe that if you know me and can see me, you can't hate me.
It's no secret that people have a level of respect and trust for military spouses and veterans because of their service to the nation. So when they tell their stories, people are more open to them.
Well, it gives me great hope when you look at what's happening in the world right now, especially in America, with social justice and reform and all of this policy changes, even changing the hearts and minds of people. I was shocked to understand how high the rate of unemployment for military spouses was. 8 times the national average. Can you help me understand why that is?
Well, almost every military spouse will tell you how incredibly difficult it is to maintain, let alone build, a career. I mean, every 2-3 years, it's once again time to move to a new duty station. Exactly. So many of us have to give up our local jobs if we were lucky enough to get one in the first place, and try to reinvent ourselves. It's a constant struggle.
As a military spouse yourself, mostly 92%, I think, of the military spouses are female. So you're among a minority within a minority. But talk to me about what your ideas are. I mean, what can be done to change that?
Well, there's a couple things, I think. First is the importance of making sure that this is constantly talked about, like Hiring Our Heroes is doing. They're doing an incredibly important job and good job at it. There's kind of a new opportunity now, I'd say. Here we are in the world of COVID-19, and previously where portability and remote work was a huge challenge for military spouses, many employers thought that spouses couldn't be retained because jobs needed to be in brick and mortar locations.
Right.
So now, because of COVID, if there is a bright spot in all of this horribleness, the world has gone remote. And it provides an opportunity, maybe, for military spouses to be retained and grow professionally as they move. At least that's my hope.
That's our hope. Well, I think we've come up with some good ideas that we've shared. Look, sharing our own stories, me being a diverse woman, you being a gay spouse in the military, a retired Marine. I mean, this is where it can start. Finding common ground, having conversations between each other. It's one of the things that I most admire about this very event, all of the melding of the minds and the ideas that are being shared and the stories that are being told. It's been a delight to hang out with you today, Stephen. I hope we can do it again. And Tina, we'll send it back to you because you have more conversations to be had.
When we talk about belonging and inclusivity in the workplace, there's certainly a strong tie to our identity. Our next panel will dive into the intersection between our well-being and our employment. Let's start with the moderator, Brianna Kila, anchor of CNN Right Now, author of the column Homefront, and an Army spouse herself.
Tina, thank you so much. And I'm just thrilled to be here to talk about 2 things that are inextricably linked, I think, for everyone, especially right now, but we certainly know they are very much in the military spouse community, and that is work and well-being. So I'm thrilled to host this first panel discussion on this very important topic and to be here with our panelists who are so integral when it comes to making this a top priority in our community. We have the Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, General James McConville, and his very accomplished wife, Mrs. Maria McConville, who is also an Army veteran herself, and Lee Kelly, the Director of Military Community Support Programs at the Department of Defense. I want to thank you all for bringing your important voices to this discussion. And, as we talk about well-being and employment, research actually backs up that connection, that there is a connection between the two. I think we know that anecdotally, but the research really does back it up. And employment so often is this key part of our identity. And if we're struggling with employment, then that's obviously going to be impacting our well-being. And because we live in such a globalized world, before this year, you might have thought it was hard to imagine something that impacted every human. We now know, being in the middle of a pandemic, we don't have to imagine. That's very much the reality right now. But one of the most, I think, universal things that we've seen emerge in the midst of this pandemic is this connection to well-being and this connection to work. This panel is not going to be talking specifically about the pandemic. Rather, we're going to be discussing well-being and why, regardless of the point of time that we're in, that this is very important to protect well-being by maintaining balance and mindfulness. And I want to start with Mrs. McConville, if I could. You are a senior military spouse who spent so many years advocating for others in a very wonderful way. And you've done this by modeling, you've done this yourself, trying to maintain balance in your own life as well as in your advocacy for others. Can you explain to us why this topic is so important to military spouses? And also, how does being in balance lead to improved health and wellness?
Sure. Thanks, Brianna, and thanks for facilitating this and to Hiring Our Heroes for pursuing this topic. I think that balance is something not that we necessarily find, but we create for ourselves. And when we are out of balance, we know what that feels like. We know what that looks like. When we're out of balance, we feel stressed. We might feel anxious. We might feel depression or anxiety. So we know what it feels like to be out of balance, but sometimes it's having too many things on our plate, too many stressors, too many obligations. Sometimes it's just trying to be everything to everybody, but not really necessarily knowing what we're doing best for ourselves. And so I think that when we are fulfilled in what we're doing, when we are living our lives most authentically, and maybe vocational wellness is part of that, then we feel a higher level of self-esteem and self-confidence. And when we're using our knowledge and our skills and our talents and our abilities to do the things that are fulfilling, we will create better balance in our lives. There's been times when I have focused on raising our kids. There's been times when I was more focused on volunteering or maybe advancing my education. And there's been times when I've been focused more in the career field. When I get the opportunity to talk to other spouses, having a paycheck is nice, and we all want to be compensated for our work. But what I find more importantly is the self-satisfaction, the self-esteem and confidence that we get, and the identity that we get from contributing. We can add value. We know that our spouses are so talented, they're hardworking, they're punctual, they're creative, they're resilient, they're flexible. And so when we can use those skills in a way that we can add value to an organization, but then when the organization can realize the value that we're bringing, it's really great for a spouse's well-being. And health and well-being isn't just physical. It's not just about our body and being free from disease, but we know that well-being incorporates our vocational wellness, our physical wellness, our mental wellness, spiritual and social wellness, financial wellness. So all of it impacts whether we're in balance and our health and well-being.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, being everything to everyone, which is just impossible, right? I know that for me, especially when I've gone through my husband's deployments, I've had to reassess what are my non-negotiables. Where do I really need to concentrate my energy? Because look, we just have fewer folks at home to take care of things. And I'm just even clear with my friends and even my job if I need to be about maybe what my temporary reshuffling of priorities are. And you try to do everything and everything kind of falls apart, right? So you got to figure out where you can concentrate. I want to talk to you, General McConville, and see if you can kind of talk to us about how the military is handling this. Certainly some certain military communities are really addressing this. And we know that the military has increasingly seen how important it is to maintain the well-being of the family in order to maintain recruitment and retention of service members. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I will. And thank you, Brianna, for doing this. And I'd like to thank the spouses up front. I think you all have the toughest job in the Army. We couldn't do what we do without you, and we couldn't be who we are without you. So just a special thanks. And in the Army, it's really about people first. When I'm talking about people, I'm talking about our soldiers, I'm talking about our spouses and families, and I'm talking about our civilians. And it's very, very important that we take care of our families, because when you look at it, we enlist our soldiers, but we really retain our families. And if you take a look at our structure, 88% of our leaders, and when I talk about leaders, I'm talking about sergeants and above, they have spouses and they have families. And this is a very challenging time right now with COVID, but the Army is very, very strong. And so we recognize just how important our spouses are, and that's one of our top priorities. So what are we doing to take care of our spouses? We're certainly in our agencies and making sure that our spouses have preference, but also working with agencies that are out there. We're advocating with them that they hire our spouses. Many of our spouses have professional licenses, and we'll work with the states. Some states have done a very good job of that. We'd like to see all the states do a very good job allowing our spouses to transfer that. So if you haven't had a chance there, certain governors to do that, we would appreciate you taking that on and making sure that all spouses can transfer their licenses, they move and do the great things they're doing for the country. We've learned a lot about telecommuting during COVID, and a lot of businesses are realizing how important that is. We think that's very, very important that they recognize that for our spouses, because many of our spouses, and Maria certainly can talk about that, and many of the spouses that maybe listeners can talk about it. Every time you move, sometimes you have to go back and start over. But if you can take your job with you, and we've shown during COVID that you can telecommute, we think that's absolutely critical. The other thing our posts are doing is taking a look at home-based businesses. We have some spouses that have some incredible talents, and it's just amazing what they do, and they just all across the talents they have. And so we want to make it a lot easier for them to keep those businesses with them. Make sure that the posts are working their way through that so they can have those things. And more importantly, which is a big challenge right now with COVID, is making sure that they have childcare, quality childcare, and that's available, because that's going to enable them to work. So again, I'd just like to thank the spouses. They are great. They make us the world's greatest Army, and a special thanks to you all.
Thank you so much, General. And I will say, military spouses, you mentioned, telework, telecommuting. A lot of them have had that down for years. That's so many Americans are exercising. And in terms of just increasing productivity through telework, they've been through that. They know how to do that. And so it's so nice to hear about these large-scale strategic efforts to address the military spouse community. I do want to mention that Hiring Our Heroes recently conducted spouse focus groups, which we're always so curious to hear how those go. And it revealed that spouses proactively secure new counselors and mental health professionals at every duty station to support them through their anticipated struggles. I know this is something in my family that we have used. This is essential. If you want to be a good parent, or your best version of being a parent, and you want to do well at work, you really have to take care of yourself, and that's something that we have done. I was hoping, Lee, you could speak to this, knowing that spouses are actively seeking these resources. And look, some don't. So this is something we really want to encourage them to do, right? Can you describe how the DoD is supporting military spouse well-being and trying to encourage what we're seeing in terms of reaching out for resources, and also encouraging other spouses to take that step as well?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely critical that people get the care they need. I talk about, if someone has a physical challenge or a mental challenge, we have the in place. We have counselors, we have behavioral health professionals, we have chaplains, we have lots of people who really want to help spouses, really want to help families. We have programs at the various posts for strong bonds. And again, when we talk about people first, we're talking about soldiers and their families, and we realize the importance of taking care of them, and we are committed to doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so important. And Lee, I know you obviously have your eye on this. What are you seeing in terms of what DoD is doing, and also kind of what you're striving towards as well?
Sure, absolutely. Brianna, the most awesome part of what you just shared was the fact that the focus group showed that military spouses proactively sought out support at new duty stations. And that's awesome news for us to hear as service providers, that military spouses are going out there and finding the support that they need. When I think about how the Department of Defense supports military spouses from a well-being perspective and our military families and service members, 3 words come to mind. The first, comprehensive, because as we've been talking about during this panel, well-being is not a one-piece puzzle. Also, flexible. Our military families and our military spouses, it's not a 9-to-5 life. It's a 24/7 life, and the resources have to be available 24/7. And the third word is personalized. Mrs. McConville spoke about the unique characteristics that each military spouse brings to the table. The support that we provide needs to be personalized to military spouses as well. That's why the Department of Defense spends a great deal of time and effort on the resources. And so when I think about 24/7 and flexibility, I'm thinking about the military one-source resource. That's kind of our one-stop shop in the Department of Defense, 24/7, 365 days a year, that military spouses, family members, service members can engage. Yes, they can engage on spouse employment and access a career coach, but they can also engage on all those other factors related to well-being, whether you're talking about that health and wellness coaching or the financial counseling or the non-medical counseling, which we've been talking about. And that flexibility comes by being able to connect via telephone, via web, live chat, via video, or in person in the community. General McConville spoke about the counselors that we have on the ground. These counselors are located, yes, in conjunction with family centers, embedded in units. We have non-medical counselors through our military and family life counseling program, as well as our behavioral health assets. The bottom line when we talk about how DoD supports well-being is that it has to be the right way at the right time for our military spouses and families, as well as our service members. It can't be a one solution. It has to be a team approach, combination of on-the-ground installation assets combined with those virtual 24/7 assets in order to meet the comprehensive needs of the community.
And Lee, are there any changes or updates to DoD programs that we should be aware of that could be changing and sort of affecting how we might be helping the military spouse community?
Well, what I'll point to there is, I know we said we're not talking about the pandemic, but it's come up, right? Military spouses have been teleworking for quite some time, and we're all starting to learn those lessons ourselves. Well, earlier this year, we held our 4th annual virtual military spouse symposium. Instead of getting our typical 2,000 spouses in attendance, we got 4,000. And what really was a lesson learned for us was the chat pod, was the ability to see our military spouses engaging with peers around the world, more than 15 countries engaging with each other. And so what we took away from that was the fact that we can build virtual communities as well. And so this fall, we'll be introducing some online spouse cohorts to strengthen the spouse employment support that we provide by establishing cohorts built around one of our scholarship programs, MyCAA, in the Department of Defense, and leveraging the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, which is our group of more than 440 companies committed to hiring military spouses. And additionally, because we've been talking about well-being, and we know that just connecting a spouse with a job doesn't solve well-being, this fall we'll be launching a relationship campaign. And this is probably no surprise, no surprise to General McConville, Mrs. McConville, no surprise to you, Brianna, that relationships are the top reason that service members and families seek non-medical counseling in the Department of Defense. And so we're embarking on this relationship campaign to just kind of pull back the curtain. What does it even look like to seek support for a relationship? Where do you go? What are some of the skills that you can build, even if a relationship dissolves? What are the skills that you can build that are going to enhance your resilience and well-being? So that's just some of the options that we have coming up in the coming months around that whole idea of how we support well-being.
I think that's so fantastic, Lee, to hear you speak about that. I've spoken with a lot of military spouses, and they want to know that they have that security, certainly just from an individual perspective. And I just want to thank all of you for talking about this. It's so important to hear from leadership in the military that this is on your minds, because it's certainly on the minds of military spouses. And Mrs. McConville, I want to thank you for lending just your personal experience to this. I think it's so important for all of us military spouses to know this is, you walk the walk, you've been through this. And Lee, thank you so much to you. It's so great to see you. It's so important to hear what DoD is doing. And it sounds like you're being very thoughtful when you're thinking about how to form these programs for military spouses. Thank you so much to all of you.
It's very heartening to hear about the work being done for our military communities. Time and again, we see that it's the grassroots initiatives that make the biggest impact. Today, we're going to present 4 awards. Let's start with the first, which shows just how powerful one community's or state's efforts can be. I want to go back now to Eric Eversole, President, Hiring Our Heroes.
The Community Leader Impact Award recognizes a community and its leaders for their efforts in creating a strong, inclusive community that allows military spouses to thrive both inside and outside of the gates. The award recipient for the 2020 Military Spouse Impact Award for Community of the Year has a long history of serving the military spouse community and has worked aggressively to ensure long-lasting changes for military spouses as they search for meaningful employment opportunities. This state was one of the first to implement our military spouse economic empowerment zones, working at the state and local level to help empower military spouses, create resources, and collaborate with military officials. It was the first state to create regional economic empowerment zones in Olympia and Spokane to reach further into these communities and provide more opportunities. The state's Employment Security Department Commissioner and its Department of Veterans Affairs worked closely with the state's 6 military installations and held roundtables to discuss the employment challenges faced by military spouses and solutions, importantly, solutions that would alleviate these challenges. This team generated a report that was forwarded to state and federal leaders and to elected officials to further action on spouse military legislation based on the recommendations. Last but not least, its Governor Jay Inslee, signed an executive order that builds upon the state's efforts to support military spouses and veterans with employment and training opportunities as families transition to civilian life in the state of Washington. With the order, military spouses have an improved employee credentialing process, which applies the current Veteran Employment Plan to military spouses. For all of their efforts, we are excited to honor the state of Washington with the 2020 Military Spouse Community Leader Impact Award.
On behalf of the Washington State Military and Veterans community and the incredible partnerships that make our work possible, we are honored to receive the Hiring Our Heroes Community Leader of the Year Award. Thank you.
Improving military spouse employment continues to be a top priority for us all across Washington state, as it has a profound impact on the families and on military readiness and our veterans' transition to our communities.
We look forward to continuing our efforts and collaborating with other communities so that spouses can move with portable and rewarding careers.
Well, thank you and congratulations.
We're going to move to our next award, one that recognizes the work of military spouse entrepreneurs. Deloitte's Mike Canning will present this award.
I'm Mike Canning, and I lead Deloitte's Government and Public Services practice. In my role, I have the honor to work alongside military families every day and have learned from the determination, innovation, and resilience of this community, qualities that make for strong service as well as creative and exceptional entrepreneurs. At Deloitte, we embrace the savvy smarts and determination of mil spouses through our Military Spouse Initiative and are a proud member of the DoD's Military Spouse Employer Partnership. As I love to brag about our team, we're also the proud recipient of Hiring Our Heroes, the 2018 Lee Anderson Veteran and Military Spouse Employment Award. I'm honored to join you today to present the 2020 Military Spouse Entrepreneur Impact Award. This year's winner is the Entrepreneur Impact Award is a stellar example of spirit, talent, and innovation and expertise. Let's take a look.
This Army family had a homeschool space that was frustrating and just wasn't working for them.
When the whole pandemic kind of hit, it made my anxiety really high, and I just felt more comfortable having my kids home. Homeschooling for the first time was really scary, and it was also kind of frustrating at first.
And I definitely have a big appreciation now for the teachers because they do it with a class full of kids, you know, and I only have 3, so I couldn't even imagine how they do it. Like, you have to have a passion for that.
We're so glad Stephanie appreciates teachers, and we appreciate the sacrifice their family makes every day.
We hope they love their new homeschool classroom makeover, and we're getting ready to surprise them. We hope you love your classroom makeover so that you can have homeschool for your entire family. Open your eyes. We got Chromebooks for the little kids. We have a laptop for you, young man, so that you can work as well. I was just so excited, and I knew Maria would, like, you know, just go all out, and so I was like, I just trust her. Whatever she does, I know I'm gonna love it. Yeah, see you all. Thanks for watching. Bye.
As we just saw, Moving with the Military is an amazing military spouse-owned and run small business. Maria Shows empowers military families by highlighting the incredible stories of a rich and engaging way. And more importantly, gives viewers a unique perspective on what it's like to be a military family. On behalf of Deloitte, it's my honor to present the 2020 Military Spouse Entrepreneur Impact Award to Moving with the Military.
Thank you so much for this honor. I'm thrilled, and I have the award right here. I am super excited. Thank you so much for recognizing what we do to support military families every day. We're so grateful. Thank you very much.
Most military families move every 2 to 3 years, which can be such a hurdle for a spouse trying to build a career. But that's why the migration to remote work we're seeing right now is a golden opportunity for military spouses. Let's listen to this discussion, moderated by Rosemary Williams, Ambassador of Hiring Our Heroes, and presented by Capital One.
Thank you so much, Tina. Military spouses have been on the cutting edge of remote work for years, by necessity in many cases. What we know about remote work is that many workers feel that they are more productive and efficient when they get to work from home. None of that messy commute and time behind the wheel. This not only has had a positive impact on the company's bottom line, but on the well-being of employees as well. Just as millennials did us a favor with their job jumping, military spouses can now look forward to more remote work opportunities if all goes well. At Deloitte, where I work, remote work has long been a part of the work-life balance, but not a standard everywhere. So here we are during a pandemic, and the hope from the chaos is that continuing the opportunity for remote work in some capacity after the pandemic leaves us. 88% of companies who responded to Hiring Our Heroes COVID-19 survey reported that employees' work quality was good or excellent since going remote as a result of the pandemic. So let's start with Mishu Bachelor from LinkedIn. Mishu, we all know that LinkedIn is a tremendous resource for professional networking. You've been especially supportive of veterans and military spouses with examples ranging from LinkedIn Premium access to specialized LinkedIn learning pathways for military spouses. So as a military spouse in technology, what do you believe are the biggest barriers for military spouse employment, and how do you think about policies that companies could consider to better support military spouses?
Thank you for having me today.
As you mentioned, I manage the employee referrals program at LinkedIn, but I also lead internal policy for military spouses as part of the Veterans and Allies ERG, the Employee Resource Group. I'm a military spouse and a mom of a now very mobile and talkative 9-month-old. My husband is currently active duty with the Air Force. We've PCS 3 times in the 4 years that we've been married, including an assignment overseas in Germany. So I've definitely experienced many of the challenges that military spouses face firsthand. I've been fortunate to have been able to stay with LinkedIn through some of these moves, and I know how important it was for me to feel like I was empowered through my work in the face of all the challenges that come with military life. So when I think about challenges or barriers, we know military life is tough. There are repeated deployments, frequent moves, sometimes international, and both unemployment and underemployment resulting from lack of career continuity and limited opportunities. While there isn't much that we can do about the deployments or the moves, I believe that we have a ton of opportunity to help military spouses when it comes to finding and retaining meaningful and fulfilling careers, wherever the service takes them. So when I think about policies, I've done a lot of research with a lot of companies to inform how I think about how I would structure military spouse policy. And it's really in 2 main areas. The first I focus on is employment, and the second I kind of bucket into support policies. So first, employment. With all the different changes and unpredictability of military life, providing some stability and continuity through employment is one of the most important things that we can do to support spouses. Here, I really believe that remote work is the game changer for military spouses. The pandemic has drastically changed the remote work landscape and shown that having a productive remote workforce could be the norm rather than the exception. The other area I think about, I kind of think as more blue sky thinking in creating economic opportunity for spouses. So some of the things that I've seen that I think would be really impactful for spouses are returnship programs or, return to work programs. So this is, for spouses that have been out of the workforce due to their military commitment, giving them an opportunity back into the workforce. The other I think about is training programs. So Microsoft, for example, has a military spouse tech academy. So programs like that would actually train spouses to have marketable skills. So the first I think about family support. So here I think about, paid time off, for example, before, during, after deployments, maybe additional childcare benefits, mental health resources. The other area I think about is HR support. So, having guides for military spouse employees and their managers, or having a point of contact who's an expert with your company's military policy. So that there's a clear process around what do you do when you get those PCS orders. I think this is really important to remove ambiguity and stress during a very stressful process.
Jim Beamisdorfer from Prudential. Prudential, a longtime champion for military spouse employment. And we know that the cost of living rising, the lifespans lengthening, the cost of long-term care increasing, it's important for all American families to have solid financial plans for how they will be able to meet these financial goals and demands over the long term. 92% of military spouses are women, and spouses who are employed. Research tells us that over half earn less than $20,000 per year. So Jim, tell us some of the ways that Prudential has been innovative to ensure that military spouses can access economic opportunity so that they too can contribute to their family's immediate and long-term financial security.
So here's the thing. It was really about talent. So we looked at it and we said, we opened an office in El Paso outside of Fort Bliss, Texas in 2014. And that's when we got deliberate about our military spouse employment program. And we said, we have this great pool of talent, educated, experienced, dedicated. We need to tap into this talent pool and figure out how we can get these folks into our workforce. And the constant dilemma is about the military moves. What do you do? Now, we looked at our world-class infrastructure and we said, we have people working remote part-time. We have people who telecommute several days a week. Why can't we do this on a more permanent basis? And what we did was we started to hire military spouses at Fort Bliss in our El Paso office. And the whole goal was to have them work in the office for give or take a year to really get to know their job, get to know their coworkers, understand the prudential climate. And then when they experienced a military move, they could take their job remote. And the whole idea was to allow them to continue to progress in their career. And we started doing this across a host of different professional roles that we have, and we found great success. And as we built those internal success stories, we got more and more managers to say, wow, I would like to participate in this because I see the benefit, I see the talent. And one of the key pieces to this that made it successful was that the military spouses, one, they performed great. But another thing was they became some of our most loyal employees. The idea that somebody would want to come work for us and stay for a long period of time and be loyal back to the company is very appealing to hiring managers. We really looked at leveraging existing policies and programs in place today. We already have an alternative work arrangement program. We already have short-term and long-term disability programs. We have reentry programs for mothers who took time off to have children and then come back into the workforce. So we said, how do we leverage some of these different programs? We have a relocation program when you go to one Prudential site to a different site, which includes international. So we said, how do we leverage all of these programs to build out our spouse employment program? And now what we're seeing with the pandemic and so many people working remote is we're saying some of our learnings from our military spouses we can apply back to our general population. So what we're seeing is the whole orientation process, virtual. And that's probably, in the future, that might be a hybrid model, but virtual, a lot of this virtual component is here to stay. The other thing we're really taking a hard look at right now is childcare and elder care, and what more we can do there to support families who have either a youngster or an elder that they need to care for. And how does that actually be incorporated into the benefit package that is offered from Prudential to employees? The other thing is that remote work, what we're finding is that we are very, very productive. You mentioned, we had 97%, give or take, go remote in less than a week. And we found we didn't miss a beat. Well, necessity is the mother of all invention, and we figured it out. And what we're finding is that a lot of these things are really going to help what we're doing with military spouses because managers have seen it works. We have what we call a Count Me In campaign, and that's for veterans to self-identify. And we have it on our slate to add military spouse self-identification, both in the new hire process and once you're an employee into our standard operating procedures. So we're constantly taking what we learn on the one side and what we learn on the other side and saying, how can we apply it so this is all part of Prudential and how we operate as a business?
Jim, thanks so much. I love this concept of asking military spouses to self-identify because for so long it was something you had to hide, right? Because it was going to be an impediment to your career because everybody knew you were going to move every two to 4 years. So good for you and good for Prudential. And I love, fingers crossed on what you said, that virtual is here to stay because gosh, that would be remarkable. We also had a similar experience in Deloitte where it was almost unnoticeable when we went remote. And that and since the pandemic, we've gotten a glimpse into employees' personal lives more and more. I have to tell you, I, for one, love it when I've seen more kids run by the back of behind a shot during a conference call. The little ones, sometimes dressed, sometimes not. I mean, it's just been so entertaining. We know that everyday challenges that the larger workforce face can be exacerbated by military lifestyle. Things like navigating childcare or not having backup family support for any number of life's challenges can make showing up as your best self even more challenging. Sometimes it can be hard to empathize with those types of situations when you haven't had to deal with them yourself. Our hope, and hope is not a strategy, the hope is that all these businesses will be more understanding of the needs and unique challenges military families face in a post-COVID workplace because they've likely experienced similar challenges. So we can call it a strategic pause that was anything but strategic. Thank you both for joining me today on this panel discussion. Learned a lot today. Tina, back to you.
In addition to holding down jobs and moving whenever duty calls, nearly 2/3 of military spouses have kids at home. Yet many of these unsung women still make time to volunteer. Our next award winner is a woman who knows the power of giving back. Let's invite Mary Redding from Grant Thornton to the virtual stage.
Thank you so much, Tina. The 2020 Military Spouse Volunteer of the Year Impact Award recognizes an individual who has made great contributions to strengthen and empower his or her community and military spouses in those communities. On behalf of Grant Thornton, it is my honor to join all of you today to congratulate this year's recipient, Dr. Ingrid Herrera-Yee. Dr. Herrera-Yee is a clinical and research psychologist with over 15 years of experience in her field. She currently works as a management consultant, focusing on research and program evaluation for military suicide prevention efforts. She is tireless in her commitment to leverage her knowledge and expertise to prevent suicide within the military community. She also serves on her company's Military Spouse Forum leadership team, which supports her military spouse coworkers across the country. Additionally, Ingrid founded the Military Spouse Behavioral Health Clinicians, which connects military spouse behavioral health clinicians with the information, resources, and individuals needed to help develop solutions to military mental health issues. I'm not even close to capturing all the amazing volunteer work that Ingrid has done for the military spouse community. But after hearing my comments today, I am confident that you understand why she is this year's recipient. Grant Thornton recognizes and appreciates the important contributions of our military family community. And on behalf of our team, I am honored to present the 2020 Military Spouse Volunteer of the Year to my friend, Dr. Ingrid Herrera-Yee.
I want to thank the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in hiring our heroes for this incredible award. And I accept it on behalf of all the military spouses out there who volunteer their time, their passion for our military community, and particularly for military spouses in behavioral health fields who are helping to reduce suicide and to support families around their mental health needs. Thank you again so much for this incredible honor.
Congratulations, Ingrid. Back to you, Tina.
Congratulations, Ingrid. Remember our theme, adapt, evolve, lead. Our next panel will show us how we can all recession-proof our careers. Our moderator is Laura Schmiegel, Head of Military and Veteran Affairs at Booz Allen Hamilton.
Thanks, Tina. We know that the high mobility of a military lifestyle means we don't have much control as military spouses over either where we live or where we work. This can lead to a wide variance in the kinds of jobs we find at each location, which in turn leads to an almost inevitable mismatch in military spouses' skills and at least some of the jobs that they're going to take. This means a continuous cycle of underemployment and even underemployment as our skills become more dispersed and less defined. That may be why upskilling has always been an attractive option for military spouses, so they can make their careers more durable over time. At Booz Allen, we pulled our military spouse network, and 75% of our spouses told us that they would be interested in continuing learning and or upskilling in order to expand their skills related to their fields. This is why I'm particularly excited to hear today from this panel of experts who are blazing new paths to leadership for military spouses through upskilling and training programs.
Thank you, Laura. My name is Chrissy Johnson. I'm a senior talent strategist for USAA. It's just a fancy way of saying I help find our talent. I'm a spouse of a retired Army First Sergeant, a military brat, and a proud Army mom. I stumbled into USA over 10 years ago when we moved to San Antonio for our final PCS. This is where I currently reside with a few of our furry friends and my awesome pet goats. I can say that I know firsthand the challenges of the military spouse employment journey It's programs like these and companies like mine that together help lead the military spouse to overcoming employment challenges. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ann Wiebe. I'm here in the Bay Area. I'm a proud Army veteran. I was enlisted in the Michigan National Guard. I am now the head of Salesforce Military and our senior director of workforce innovation. And my real passion is to help people find jobs and see themselves in tech. Technology companies, every company is a technology company right now, and we need so many incredible diverse people in these companies. And so through Salesforce Military and our efforts, we're just really helping people find their dream jobs.
Great. I'm Monica McNeil. I'm a daughter of an Army veteran, sibling of an Air Force veteran, and a mom of a fallen Marine. So I've got a lot of the branches covered in my family. And I have always been in corporate America and just took a small stint and went over to the nonprofit space and started working with veterans and military families. And in the last year, I joined Microsoft as a program manager of the Military Spouse Technology Academy.
Thank you, everyone. I am very excited to hear from all of you. So let's get right into it, starting with Chrissy. USAA was an early supporter of the Hiring Our Heroes fellowships, which gives spouses on-the-job training and that important foot in the door to get to know people that can, we know, lead to critical new jobs and new careers. Can you share how opportunities like fellowships, internships, and other programs that USAA has that have helped military spouses reskill or upskill, and then any stories of impact you have of spouses that were successful doing it, I think would also be helpful for the audience.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Laura. USA demonstrates its deep commitment to decrease the military spouse unemployment and underemployment rates by not only hiring military spouses, but also facilitating the hiring of military spouses across industries through advocacy of their value to corporate America. USA is engaged and supportive of programs that connect veterans and spouses with meaningful careers. I recently had the opportunity to speak to one of our current military spouse fellows, Mary, and I asked her if this opportunity had helped her reskill or upskill herself. Mary advised, working at USAA as a contractor through the fellowship has helped me upskill my abilities. She said she possessed the skills needed to work as a project manager, but what she didn't have was the opportunity and the level at which the environment works. Mary said she manages more projects, works on more teams, and is more involved in more assessments than ever before. This opportunity had already helped her with her resume and helped introduce her to bank, risk, and compliance terminology across USAA. I asked Mary if she had an impactful result or a story she would like to share. And Mary stated that for years, she just said she needed the opportunity to show an employer what she was made of. This comment was extremely impactful for me. As a spouse, I've lost count of how many times I have said that to myself, to my spouse, to my friends. I just need the opportunity. I just need to get my foot in the door to shine. Mary continues, Hiring Our Heroes and USAA gave me that shot. I now make a good living. I'm professionally fulfilled by the work I do, and I'm a member of the bank transformation team within USAA. Although this is only one spouse's observation, I can share that we have seen and believe in the value of this program and our military spouses. To date, USAA has hired 7 spouses from the fellowship, 5 more started on the 31st, and overall, we see a 5 to 10% better retention rate of military veterans and spouses over civilians. Through coordinated efforts, programs, and initiatives, strategies like these will only continue to elevate the military spouse career.
All of us who are military spouses have probably said the same thing. If I could just get in there, just give me a shot. So I love hearing that story. Thank you. Anne, I want to turn to Salesforce now because you also recently partnered with Hiring Our Heroes and created this really cool, innovative new fellowship opportunity for spouses and veterans. Spouses frequently pursue further education and training so that they can be more competitive, but their choices may not match current career fields or what might be trending in terms of companies that are hiring. What types of occupations do you see emerging right now as portable in-demand careers that have that strong mobility? And how does something like a Salesforce certification help that and help with their career progression?
Yeah, thanks. So I would really urge people to look at industry certifications. And this, at Salesforce, we have one that we are doing the training on. It's a very rigorous, hard test, but it's really worth it to show that you can understand emerging technology and that you can kind of learn the latest trends. And so if you have seen some of these programs out there, I would say that sometimes they're very hard to understand what makes someone good at some of these brand new jobs and fields. But I'd really have you assess them, reach out on LinkedIn. So many people who are doing these credentials are, excited about their new career and want to talk to people. And so while skilling up and getting a credential is important, having a network and social capital is equally important. So don't discount, just the learning in a silo and really the learning in a community. We've found through our military community, which is service members, reservists, National Guard, veterans, and spouses. We've probably been serving spouses through our program since day one, that, people are excited about the learning, but getting together and helping people navigate brand new career pathways is something that is, really powerful on someone's journey to really breaking through into a new ecosystem or career. The Salesforce credentials I'll share, at salesforce.com/military, we have a program. You sign up, you can get free vouchers, you can get free classes, and now access to employers. And I tell people to take a chance at any of these industry credentials because many of them are free. Many of them just add to probably an already great resume that you have, give you a, something else to kind of add as a bullet point that's brand new, especially if you've been out of the workforce or you're changing fields right now. And it just signals that you can learn. And that's just huge to be able to show that no matter what is given to you at a company or in a new job, is that you can, quickly pick it up and pass. And I'll say, training is, nice to have, but it's really nothing without that job. And so we're really proud of the fellowship, the Salesforce Military Fellowship that we started. We got 36 people actively working today, and breaking into new fields, utilizing their new certification, and really seeing what they like, seeing what they don't like. It's a trial period for both the employer and for the employee to really understand this new field and to be able to navigate from there. So that's what we are doing. I think that companies that are emerging, they're not companies that maybe you know about as well. So we've started a talent alliance that's giving people access to employers that are doing automatic interviews. And we really want to, support people to get that first job placement and figure out what they like, because the dream job is their ultimate goal.
That's great. I know Booz Allen's one of those employer partners for Salesforce, and we're extremely excited to get involved in the fellowship program as well. So thank you very much for that, Anne. Monica, I want to pull on that thread a little bit, because I know Microsoft has been involved for a long time in upskilling opportunities for the military community writ large, first with MSSA and now the MSTA program for military spouses that let them upskill into really relevant careers. Anne just mentioned the tech industry is an emerging career field. So I'm curious to hear what degrees and certificates will best enable those kinds of careers at Microsoft and other companies you work with.
Great, thank you. And I agree with Anne. I mean, there's a lot of great information out there and a lot of great free programs. Just briefly, our MSTA program is also underwritten by Microsoft, and we're still in pilot phase. So we've had 3 cohorts, and we teach cloud app development most recently. And out of that cohort, many of our students had never done any coding. Some of them had never even downloaded an app. So we've been able to take these military spouses, and after 22 weeks, they're able to complete an app and do a team project. So you have the ability and the skills. You can definitely tap into a lot of this great education. And And like I said, our last class, we graduated in March, and we're at 80% employed as of the other day. Considering COVID-19, we're very proud of that. And almost everyone is in some sort of a tech role, not all in cloud app development, but are in tech industry. So with that, the tech industry is huge, and I double check my numbers, and there's over 115,000 jobs this morning that are open in the IT industry. So it's broad, it's wide, and you kind of have to figure out what is the part that you love about tech. And, do you like problem solving? Are you a good fit for this industry? And what I love too is there's a ton of jobs that are non-tech related in the tech industry. So you may be a great program manager, may not necessarily have to know everything about tech. So there's a lot of points of entry, and obviously the Salesforce is a phenomenal program. And I love other programs in the tech. Apprente is in many states today, so it's a great chance to get into tech. Many corporate environments have, like Microsoft has LEAP, so you can enter in through an apprenticeship through the LEAP program, and other corporations have other programs. So check out what they have maybe in your community. I'm a huge believer in finding mentors, and as Ann said, that's a great way to find out what they actually do in their job, because if you've ever read a job description for a tech, I think it is very confusing, and it's they're going to throw out a lot of great words and acronyms, and it's a great opportunity to say, hey, I maybe need to get skilled up. If you don't know SQL, if you don't know C#, this is an opportunity to say, okay, I need to maybe skill up and be ready for my next career. So certificates always will never hurt you. They're not always required for every job. Some companies allow you to get them while you're on site, but you have to get the job. So if it's going to help you be prepared and be a top candidate, get all the education certifications you can, because you're going to stand out amongst the rest of the competition.
Thank you. I love that you pointed out that not every tech job is the same, because people just hear cyber or tech or IT and they probably have one thing in their mind. So hearing that there are different tech jobs for different personalities and different, working environments is really important for people to hear too, I think, as they're out there exploring and asking questions. So thank you very much, Monica. The military spouse community has suffered from elevated rates of unemployment and underemployment for 10 years now, about 7 or 8 times the national average, as we've heard earlier today. This panel has shown us that one way spouses can avoid those career gaps and underemployment is upskilling, especially in areas that make their careers more durable, like technology fields. I want to thank our awesome panelists for sharing these really best practices for spouses and employers, and I truly hope we've left you each with something new to consider. Thanks, and back to you, Tina.
Amidst all the many challenges that 2020 has brought, it has also given us glimpses into the lives of others in an entirely new way. Joining us now is a wife and mother who will share her experience and her remarkable journey as a military spouse.
I wanted to be a nurse when I grew up. In my kindergarten yearbook, I wrote, I'm going to be a nurse. So there was no question when I graduated from high school where I was going to go. I was going to go to nursing school. I got my bachelor's of science in nursing, received my bachelor's in science in nursing, married my high school sweetheart, Scotty Smiley, who was a newly commissioned officer in the United States military. Employment wasn't even something that crossed my mind. I knew I would always have a job. There would never be an issue. I would always be able to fulfill my purpose of being a nurse and working. That wasn't until everything changed. In a blink of an eye, tragedy and hardship knocked on my door. I received a phone call at 3 a.m. The gentleman on the other line said, your husband has come face to face with a suicide car bomb. Shrapnel went into his face. He said, one thing we're certain is he lost both of his eyes. And we don't know if he's going to survive. I made one phone call. That was to the doctors that I worked for. And I resigned from my nursing job. I knew it was going to take all hands on deck. I had no idea what to expect, but I knew Scotty would need me. And I wouldn't be going back to work anytime soon. Scotty would go on to become the first blind active duty officer to continue service to our country. So here we were, active duty. He stayed employed. He stayed with a purpose and recovered and adapted. But then once again, I found myself unemployable. My nursing license was in Washington State. I now was living in Virginia and Georgia and North Carolina and New York. I couldn't use my license in those states. We were moving every 1 to 2 years. This is the story of military spouses that we all know so well. But the most courageous thing I ever did was stand up for myself. To say, I need help. Scotty was well again. He didn't need me like he needed me in the beginning. So I went back to nursing. But I share this because I didn't quit. You have it in you. I think it's part of the employment journey, whether you're employed or unemployed. Even with employment, there's challenges that we face. There's adjustments that we have to figure out. And with unemployment, I think the greatest hardship is not using the purpose that you know you have. So I want to challenge you to keep going.
Stories like that fuel our desire to innovate and to work collectively to find solutions for military spouses. To do that, we need data. Take a look at this video. It gives a snapshot of the findings from a year of research on economic opportunities for military spouses.
This research effort aims to supply military spouses, employers, and other stakeholders with actionable solutions to address employment challenges. Here's what we found. Entrepreneurship in the form of both business ownership and self-employment are viable options for military spouses. The overwhelming majority relied on personal savings to fund their businesses. Most spouses who started their own business said it was primarily due to the need for flexibility, and most spouses who no longer have their own business had to discontinue due to permanent change of station rather than lack of profitability. Military spouses in our research were both highly educated and highly likely to pursue additional training or education. 3 out of every 4 respondents had at least a 4-year degree, and approximately 80% had already pursued additional training or education during their time as a military spouse. Military spouses face under- and unemployment challenges that contribute to a loss of talent in our all-volunteer force. Approximately 1 in 3 military spouses said they have chosen to live apart from their military service member specifically to accommodate their work or education. 39% of military spouses have seriously discussed the possibility of their family leaving military service to support their career. Of those who had already retired or transitioned, 32% reported that supporting their own work or career was a major consideration in that decision. Together, Hiring Our Heroes and Grow with Google will use these results and implications to create pathways that will pave the way for military spouses to experience increased success in their entrepreneurial, remote work, and upskilling endeavors.
It's hard to refute the numbers, and it's exciting when research serves as the foundation for real solutions. Let's hear more about that in our next panel, moderated by Megan Ogilvie, CEO of DogTag Inc.
Thank you, Tina. My name is Megan Ogilvie. I'll be moderating today's panel, where we're going to review the Google study findings and have a research-based discussion to understand the obstacles that are facing military spouses today in employment and how to overcome them. We recognize there's a need for flexible opportunities today, and this data that we're going to review will really speak to that. I'm incredibly excited to introduce and welcome a panel of experts to recap a year-long study on military spouse unemployment. Our panelists are Hector Mojica, Head of Jobs and Skills at Google.org, Joel Simon, Managing Director at Workforce Strategies at Burning Glass Technologies, Lakeisha Cole, owner of She PR, and Rosie Morey, Director of Applied Research and Analytics at IBMF. Now, I can't tell you how excited I am for this discussion today, as I am the CEO of Dog Tagging, a nonprofit that's based here in Washington, D.C., where we work to empower veterans that have service-connected disabilities, military spouses, and military caregivers. Just under 40% of our alumni are military spouses. We recognize that military spouses are the CEOs of their family, making financial and strategic decisions every day. They're the entrepreneurial mindset of understanding all the different ways of how to figure it out with multiple deployments and multiple moves. Highly capable, highly educated, yet still struggling to find the right employment opportunities. Now, this discussion again today, we're going to review data that'll really speak to understanding what these issues are and how we can be part of solutions. With that, let's start the panel. Hector, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. Can you tell us why this research is so very important to understanding the military spouse unemployment?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you for joining us. Like Megan mentioned, my name is Hector Mujica, and I lead Google.org's economic opportunity efforts across the Americas. This includes our efforts to ensure that underserved communities, including veteran communities, have access to the right tools to access jobs and achieve upward mobility. Now, like Megan mentioned, we are definitely in unprecedented times. COVID has an unpredictable impact on the economy, and we're still trying to wrap our heads around the recovery path ahead of us. But certain shifts in the economy have become fairly clear. These are shifts such as automation of certain jobs, the growth of distance learning, and the expansion of remote work. And as we're trying to grapple with this new reality, we have to understand the challenges and complexities of each of the communities we look to serve. And that anytime we try to take a look at solutions for a particular community, we need to look at research and data to inform our efforts. We've been lucky to work with this amazing group of experts, many of whom are joining us in this virtual call today, to help inform how we can best support veterans and military spouses in improving their economic mobility. So as we start this journey, we are understanding that there's a wealth of data about military spouse employment, but not much concentrated information about topics like entrepreneurship, remote work, and upskilling. So that is what this study focuses on. The study not only identifies specific challenges and barriers that military spouses face when participating in these spaces, but also gives us insights that we can act upon. That's why we believe these type of investments are important. It is our hope that today's research will release, that we're releasing today, will help inform the ways in which leaders and companies such as Google can work to support military spouses in the community.
Through a series of surveys and focus groups, we got to meet a lot of military spouses, and probably not surprising, we learned that they are full and that they are diverse, and that certainly holds true as they seek self-employment and entrepreneurship opportunities. Most of the folks who did indeed say they worked for themselves or started their own business, the majority of them did so through freelancing, independent contracting, 1099 work, not limited to what we gig work, but certainly including that as well. About 45% became small business owners and sole proprietorships, and then about a third of also became independent distributors or part of multi-level marketing kinds of initiatives. And a smaller but measurable portion, about 11%, became small business owners themselves with employees. I should note that this survey and these focus groups took place. So if anything, I would expect the freelancing and small business ownership numbers to have increased since our traditional labor market has been ended. But like the rest of America, it's really all over the map. And certainly folks who pursue any one of these areas do so, not necessarily at the expense, but many pursue different kinds of self-employment and entrepreneurship over the course of their experience.
Yeah, so using federal data, you can look at some high-level trends. And so, for example, in the past 5 years, self-employment for military spouses have increased for both active duty military spouses as well as spouses of veterans. Most notably, the increase for active duty spouses has been significant. It's probably close to double in the past 5 years. And that increase is due to the fact that military spouse unemployment rates have consistently remained high. And it's probably due to the fact of the mobility of the military lifestyle, that traditional employment opportunities are limited. So they're in turn creating their own meaningful employment opportunities. The top industries for active duty military spouses that are in self-employed are in the retail trade. So both the traditional in-store, but non-store is definitely more popular. So the home-based, the door-to-door, the online retailers, the healthcare and social assistance, as well as the professional, scientific, and technical services. So accounting, legal, advertising, PR, technical services, and consulting. But our understanding of military spouse entrepreneurs is limited with existing federal data. So it's studies like this that are extremely needed and ultimately and are super important so that we understand the challenges that military spouses face and what the support mechanisms are needed to support business ownership.
So it's really interesting in talking about the different industries of this, self-selection that our military spouses are going into. Joel, if we can go back to the study, did you find any trends among military spouses specifically that were likely than others to select owning a business or being self-employed as their ideal situation?
For sure. I think Rosie described it well, that the lifestyle can be at odds with traditional employment activities, and where necessity is the mother of invention, and military spouses in particular being resourceful, a lot of folks pursued self-employment and entrepreneurship because they had to, because they had to find a way to support their family and get some income coming in when the traditional labor market wasn't really designed around them. We saw a lot of different experiences, a lot of folks seeking greater levels of flexibility, augmentation of income, and just the inability to pursue their own interests and professional aspirations in the places where they happen to be deployed at the moment. We saw a lot of folks begin kind of by accident, folks who were watching their neighbors and friends' children, and then lo and behold, had a home childcare business. Also folks who had traditional employment in a previous location and found that once they moved, they had to change their employment status, but then became a freelance worker for their old employer, and then found themselves able to do that for multiple employers, and then lo and behold, they became those kinds of workers. And then also folks who had more traditional startups, whether it's in software, professional services, or what have you, who really set out at the beginning to pursue that kind of work-life balance to the degree that they can achieve it. But like I said, really all over the map, but also just that idea of being able to put together your skills and your capabilities in concert with the situation, life and work situation that you find yourself in.
Well, I think that's a great transition. I'd love to have Lakeisha Cole step into this conversation, as you are part of the data set we are discussing, and you live it boots in the ground day in and day out.
Speaking to what Joel just mentioned, whether we're talking about military spouses or Black entrepreneurs, which are not one and the same, but there are some commonalities between the two demographics. Some choose entrepreneurship out of passion, and others choose it out of necessity. Simply, it's the only path that they found that they're able to make money and able to financially contribute to their household. As the study reveals, most spouses who started their own business said it was primarily due to the need of flexibility. Brings me back to being a mom who runs a business. I have 3 kids. I have one with special needs. I've spent a lot of time in doctors' offices and hospitals, and I can't think of another scenario where if I worked at a traditional 9 to 5, I probably would have been fired. The amount of times that I spent away from work. So owning my own business gives me that flexibility to, be there for my family when I need to, and still able to, generate income for myself and for my family. Their prior, oftentimes unpleasant experiences in the job market that drives military spouses to entrepreneurship. It makes them realize that, again, that traditional employment structure is no longer a life suited for them or for their family as they, go through this whole military journey. As for the Black community and other minority entrepreneurs, they are often excluded from traditional employment for various reasons. It could be limited education, it could be language barriers, it could be discrimination. So for them, I think the best option for achieving financial security, that's why they look to start their own business and to create those opportunities for themselves. I like to say, it becomes a matter of obtaining and maintaining financial and social stability. And owning a business sort of weakens those societal limitations while eliminating, the limitations that you have on the profit that you make and the opportunities that you can kind of garner for yourself. Black entrepreneurs still face some barriers to small business ownership, but despite being, underfunded, underrepresented, women entrepreneurs and businesses are the fastest growing demographic in the United States, and Black women remain the fastest growing population of entrepreneurs in the country. And that's simply because we know that ownership is the most viable path for us when it comes to building generational wealth for our families.
And so in speaking to that, I know you run your own company. How long have you been in operation for, Lakeisha?
I made the transition from employee to employer full time in 2013.
Wow, it's phenomenal. So in speaking to kind of, like you said, it's really life balance as well as the financial side of it. Rosie, going back to that financing piece, can you really kind of touch upon, the trends that you're seeing with the younger generation and navigating the financials?
Yeah, so it's very common for startup businesses to be self-funded. People usually go through their savings, personal assets, credit cards, and then when those are tapped out, they go to their friends and families. Ultimately, though, you need a proven concept and a strong business plan before you apply for business loans or getting an investment. So that requires some time. So that search for capital, especially in the startup, is a challenge for all potential entrepreneurs. The challenge for younger individuals, which military spouses are younger when compared to other military cohorts, like such as, for example, veterans, is that financial wealth, so to speak, is limited. They may not have much in savings and personal assets. If you're PCSing often or in rural areas, you may have limited established networks or limited access to local resources, such as incubators that may help with this. We'll also add that human and social capital is equally, if not more important than financial capital for startup businesses. Another common pathway is that what researchers call hybrid entrepreneurs. It's those that are working full-time elsewhere, but also have a business on the side. Now, this is becoming more and more popular for many individuals because it allows you to slowly grow that business, but not take as much financial risk. Plus, you have the ability to put money back or put money in the business. The challenge for military spouses in particular is that they have higher unemployment rates and lower salaries compared to non-military counterparts due to that mobility of military lifestyle. So what would be a common method of funding your business is particularly limited for military spouses. So the result of the limited income, savings, network, and access of resources is that they may be relying more and more on personal credit cards. And that may also be impacting the type of businesses that active duty military spouses are starting.
So I want to go, I would love to go back to Lakeisha if that's okay. Because Lakeisha, again, just hearing from, Rosie and the feedback about the financing, you've been in operation since 2013. You said, where have you seen the strengths of that, but also where do you see why military spouses sometimes no longer have their business?
Great question. I think there are a number of things. I think PCSing affects that decision. And if you PCS overseas, the SOFA agreement, I think that affects the decision too. This question brings me back to a time when we were stationed in Okinawa and I had a booming e-commerce business. And when I got there, I had to close that business for 6 months due to the SOFA regulations. Here you have a set of outdated regulations that don't support the current economic climate, dictating how you can take care of your family. So it took some research and education on my part to really sit down and figure out how I can come up with some workable solutions to continue to operate my business. Thankfully, we were able to come up with some workable solutions that allowed me to resume my e-commerce business. But I know that opportunity didn't seem to happen for a lot of people. So, going from having this booming business to having to close for 6 months, it was stressful. And it becomes a financial burden as well, because you move overseas, that's a financial burden. And then you have all of the expenses and everything else that's wrapped into your business. And then to take that away, it became really stressful for myself and for my family. And then having to pick that up again 3 years later and move it back to the States and figure out how to operate adds an entire different level of stress. So I think, some of those reasons why they choose some, just you get defeated really quickly with trying to figure out how, we often say we have to reinvent ourselves when we're going in for these job interviews. You have to kind of reinvent your business too every single time you PCS, and that's not always an easy task to do.
Hearing that viewpoint, I think really brings to light just some of the obvious barriers and obstacles that the military spouses are really facing, and hopefully we can find some ways to build a bridge over them for these solutions.
Right, and we have to remember entrepreneurship, it's a people first sport, and sometimes it feels like a contact sport. But it requires more than just a great idea, but you have to have a good team, you have to have a strong network, you have to have those relationships, you have to have strategy, and then you have to have capital, and those are all important attributes that factor into a successful business. And unfortunately, when you're bouncing around so often, you're unable to gather all of those attributes to apply it to your business to ensure that it can survive a PCS or deployment or any other type of life factors that are kind of thrown your way.
We've seen in this research that research has really given us an excellent insight into the desires of military spouses when it comes to skilling. The study respondents have noted that they were very likely to pursue further training or education to improve their jobs or careers in the future. And majority are also seeking skills that they could use no matter where they live. So going back to Lakeisha's point, that adaptability and transferability of skill sets is rather important, and ones that can be applied to a wide range of job families or entrepreneurial ventures that can augment the competitiveness of and mobility of a candidate is incredibly important. We also know that military spouses are seeking these skills, but as noted in the research, they face challenges in navigating where to find quality resources to learn those skills. So that's why at Google, we've been excited to work with Hiring Our Heroes to make it easier for spouses to get the training they need through content like Google's Primer tool or our Google Career Certificates, which is just one step in the right direction. And we're excited to continue to leverage this research and this body of work to encourage other entities to support military veterans and their spouses in their job security journey.
Well, this has been a great conversation, and I think we want to keep it going, but we know this summit is going to continue. I want to first thank the panelists that have joined us today, and know that this is all part of being part of a greater ecosystem of support, and not just serving our military and the veterans, but really the whole family, which is the military spouse and the family members. So thank you all today. Thank you for your time, your expertise, and we look forward to the follow-up of this study.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, back to you, Tina.
I mentioned earlier that hearing from military spouses drives us to innovate. Now we want to reveal one of those innovations. I'm excited to welcome our friends from Grow with Google back to the virtual stage.
Thanks so much, Tina. As we have heard throughout the day, Hiring Our Heroes is committed to changing the trajectory of military spouse employment. And this afternoon, I am joined by Brona Friel to make an exciting announcement about a tool that's going to help us do just that. Welcome, Brona. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, Meredith. It's a pleasure to be here and to see you again and to be part of this exciting announcement.
It's so great to have you here. Currently, you are the Grow with Google program lead for veterans and military families. Can you tell me a little bit about Grow with Google?
Yes, of course, Meredith. So Grow with Google is an initiative to create economic opportunities for all Americans by helping people across the US grow their skills, careers, and businesses through free tools, trainings, and events. It's important to us that the opportunities created by technology are available for everyone, regardless of where they live or who they are. And since 2017, more than 5 million Americans have grown their businesses and careers with help from Grow with Google's workshops and trainings. And through a network of more than 7,500 partner organizations, including nonprofits like yourselves, more people across the country have access to free online tools and programs. And for anyone watching, you can learn more at google.com/grow.
Thanks so much for that snapshot, Brona. As we heard earlier today, Grow with Google partnered with Hiring Our Heroes, conducting some research on 3 specific military spouse career journeys and their impact on military spouse economic opportunity. Can you tell me a little bit about why Grow with Google partnered with us on that research?
Yes, Meredith. So certainly just to take a step back, when Grow with Google set out to support transition and service members, veterans, and military spouses, we recognized that there were already a lot of stellar organizations in the space doing great things for this community. So we really focused on being additive and complementary and doubled down on listening and learning along the way. We wanted to figure out where we could add unique value while increasing economic opportunities for this really important community. And we have been so lucky to work with and learn from experts and thought leaders, many of whom are mil spouses themselves, to help inform our approach, not to mention the great community of military spouses who work at Google and who have guided us along the way. We learned that there was a wealth of data about spouse unemployment, but actually not that much information about entrepreneurship, growing small businesses, or upskilling. And so our study not only identified specific challenges military spouses face when, for example, pursuing entrepreneurship, participating in remote work, and reskilling to high growth industries, but also gave us information that we could act upon. And that's why we're here launching the Mil Spouse Roadmap today. What about our research jumped out at you?
I think as a military spouse, I know that there are so many individuals and organizations that support us and that our families are valued. But I think one of the things that jumped out at me about our research is something that I have often faced, and that's that as we look at all of the organizations and resources that are available to us, oftentimes it's just hard to know where to start. And I wasn't surprised to see that 70% of our respondents felt the same way. And with that, they talked about how confusing it can be. So I think overall, what we found was that oftentimes military spouses experience resource confusion. And I know that you all saw that recently too. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely, Meredith. And as you mentioned, it's so fantastic that many folks want to support this community, but we also need to ensure that spouses can navigate and understand that support. And personally, I've heard time and time again that a major challenge is discoverability. Like you said, military spouses know that there's a great deal of resources out there for them, but just don't know where to start. And Meredith, that's why we're excited to help address this challenge with your team through an all-in-one roadmap for military spouse employment. As we've heard earlier today, employment and career is connected to and makes a difference across quality of life, wellness, self-confidence, and I think we can all relate to that. And even though this research and our planning started before COVID-19 pandemic, we think it's so relevant today. As the economy is rapidly changing, we know that military spouses, like so many other Americans, are looking to begin new career paths during this time of economic recovery.
And this Mil Spouse Roadmap is a tool to help military spouses actually turn those things into a reality. So it has 3 journeys. One for military spouses who want to start their own business or maybe have already started their own business and just need help with the next step. One for those who are looking for remote work opportunities. And one for those who do want to upskill or reskill to that growth industry or that more durable career path. And you brought up the fact that we started this research over a year ago, which is really hard to believe. But I think so much of what we have shown here remains so timely and so relevant because as so many folks go to remote work at this point in time, and others look to maybe change their career trajectory or choose something that helps them recession-proof their career, so to speak, the Mil Spouse Roadmap takes suggestions and advice and turns them into tangible action items that these spouses can use to be successful as they look to do that. Let's take a look at the roadmap now. As a military spouse using the roadmap for the first time, you have a chance to read a high-level overview of the 3 journeys our research focused on. As you click through this map preview, you can see a brief synopsis of what you'll find along each path. Once you choose the path that you're interested in learning more about, it's time to start your journey. Within each journey, you can preview an outline of the steps to come and skip ahead to find the topics and resources you need right now or dive in at the very beginning of the journey. Each journey is broken into 4 phases, and each phase is split into further milestones and specific actionable steps. With each step, you'll find real-life advice from fellow spouses, key data from our research, and resources to help you make the decisions and find the resources you need to succeed. Along the way, the roadmap tracks your progress, allowing you to stay on track with your goals.
Meredith, thanks so much for giving that demo. I really love this resource because it's flexible and it moves with a military spouse's career journey, no matter what stage they're at. For example, I've met military spouses who have started their own business, then decided to upskill into a new area to help address a unique challenge they might be facing at that one time. And I'm sure you know many like that too. And so the hope is that there's clear guidance, advice, and resources for military spouses, no matter what stage of their career they're at. And I hope everyone has a chance to check it out at milspouseroadmap.org. And I have to say, and I might be biased, it's great to see Grow with Google's free tools and resources for military spouses, like our remote work job search tool, our primer app that teaches many bite-sized lessons, as well as our Google career certificates, alongside so many Hiring Our Heroes and government resources too. And actually on that, we recently announced new Google career certificates offering training in high-paying, high-growth career fields of data analytics, project management, and user experience design. And we hope that military spouses will take advantage of those once they're available later this year. And again, more information on those at google.com/grow. And so Meredith, just to finish up, the best part of this roadmap is that it will continue to live and grow. And I know our teams are committed to housing the latest and greatest resources as soon as they're available.
And with that, I will turn it back to you, Tina.
What a tremendous resource for military spouses out there. If you've been counting along, we presented 3 awards. Our final award is named after Mrs. Bonnie Amos, known as the First Lady of the Marine Corps. The Bonnie Amos Award for Lifetime Achievement recognizes the powerful legacy of a military spouse. So please welcome our presenter, Horatio Rosansky from Booz Allen Hamilton.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Tina, and thank you to Hiring Our Heroes for having me here today and for all the great work that you do for the military community. I am so honored to be here today to be part of this celebration. Most of you know that Booz Allen has ties with the military that run very deep. What you may not know is that my colleagues, nearly a third of them, are personally connected to the military. That's over 9,000 people who are veterans and reservists, members of the National Guard, military spouses, or children of former military members. Every day, these colleagues bring talent and skill, but they bring dedication and commitment that form the bedrock of our culture. We're proud to be associated with the United States military for over 80 years. But candidly, it's only been in the last decade that we have focused specifically on the value that military spouses can bring to our workforce. It's not just skill and dedication and talent. Military spouses have the ability to juggle, to adapt, to be flexible, and to overcome, and bring unique passion to everything that we do. Perfect example of that is Dr. Ingrid Herrera-Yee, who's being awarded the Volunteer of the Year Award. Ingrid, congratulations. We are proud to have you at Booz Allen. Now, we're not the only company who's figured this out. Many others have, because of the work that people on this webcast are part of. We're here today to celebrate one such individual. The Bonnie Amos Award for Lifetime Achievement recognizes the powerful legacy of the military spouse, and it's awarded to somebody who's gone above and beyond in caring for military spouses for a very long time. This year's recipient has done just that, with over 35 years of service and impact. She has dedicated to military spouses her whole career in ways that are small and big. Too many to mention, really, but let's just talk about her commitment to the Tragedy Assistance Programs for Survivors, or TAPS, or her work with Easter SEALs, where she has bridged the public and the private sector to ensure that military spouses have the careers they deserve. I could talk to you about this all day, but they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So instead of me talking, why don't we see her in action in this video?
So how would I describe Dawn? She's the most giving person. I often say I don't know how her heart fits into her tiny body.
She's an advocate, an ambassador, and an advisor.
She is a woman who cares about service and sacrifice, and she understands the price that we pay for freedom.
She grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and then moved to Wiesbaden, Germany, with her mom and her stepfather, who was Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force.
Dawn is really a third culture kid. She grew up as a military child, but also the spouse of an Air Force officer with these different positions, living in multiple countries. Dawn knows while a service member signed the dotted line to say, hey, I'm willing to give my life for the country's freedom, she knows that equally important to that contribution for recruitment and retention is how we take care of those families.
First time I met Dawn, it was very clear she was committed to family. There's her own personal family and how much she loves them. But there's also her Air Force family, her military family. Dawn has spent a lifetime working for military families across the nation, across the world.
I got to know Dawn through her coming to visit Easter SEALs, and it was incredible the way she engaged with every participant in every program. Within 2 minutes, the seniors in our medical adult daycare were hugging her and wanting to share their stories. The kids were running up to her and hugging her when we went through the Child Development Center. And that really was a great demonstration of her passion for the community.
Dawn's chosen to focus on those areas that really not only are her passion, but also an area where she brings great gifts and incredible strength. As a school teacher, children's education is really important.
Dawn really understands why we focus so much on ensuring that community families can really support the military families, and also they begin to understand what the military family's experience is. We know that such a small portion of the US population serves or even know people who serve. And so this has been a wonderful way to bridge those divides.
Because she sent me off to war so often and been through the deployments, the loneliness and the challenges, I mean, she can relate to spouses who are going through that. The work that she's done with key spouses and deployed spouses has been spectacular. And she's had every spouse's worst nightmare. The wing commander, the chaplain, and the blue steely entourage knocking on the door at 2 in the morning to tell her that her husband had been shot down. And she just has braved it all with an incredible courage, and I think has become an example for spouses across the Air Force and across the Joint Team, quite frankly, in terms of how to face these issues with style, with class, and with heart. Because of my rescue and some of the challenges that members of my rescue team have gone through when it comes to invisible wounds, that's become very personal for both of us, but especially for Dawn, as we focus on a lifetime commitment to these airmen who have answered their nation's call and ensuring that we are taking not only care of them, but just as important, taking care of their caregivers. And I think Dawn's passion for that comes through every time we gather.
They have pushed along treatment and care to wounded warriors and service members across the globe that we would never have done so quickly without their advocacy. And she was a key part of that.
Dawn is a quiet force. She doesn't shout, but she leads. Her passion and her commitment always shine through, and that makes people want to get involved and want to be supportive. She is truly a community builder.
Without question, the relationships that I've built as chief that are the most lasting and the most impactful are the ones that I've built with Dawn. She has been my secret weapon. I cannot tell you how much I admire her and the passion that she brings to being not only an Air Force spouse, but now First Lady of the Air Force, and being a representative for all of us.
Dawn Goldfein has dedicated her life to empowering military spouses to bring their best and continue pursuing their goals.
Dawn, congratulations on receiving this prestigious award. So well deserved.
Dawn, congratulations. This is such a well-deserved honor for your incredible service for so many years.
Congratulations, Dawn, on your Lifetime Achievement Award. Very excited for you and the family. We know all the work and hours that you've put into it. We love you.
Congratulations, Dawn. Thank you for a lifetime of service, inspiration, and encouragement.
Dawn, thank you for, really more than 37 years. We've been married for 37 years, but we met well over 4 decades ago. And if there was ever love at first sight, that was our story. And that love has just grown over these 4 decades. And I can't wait for the next 4 decades together.
Dawn, congratulations on the 2020 Impact Award for Lifetime Achievement.
Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the recipient of this year's Bonnie Amos Award for Lifetime Achievement, Dawn Golphin. And Mrs. Golphin has brought with her a very special guest, former U.S. Air Force Chief of Staff, General David Golphin. Dawn, General Golphin, welcome. Thank you for your service to our nation. And at this time, General Golphin, if you don't mind passing the award to Mrs. Golphin. Outstanding. Dawn, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And for those of you who can't see, this is a beautiful crystal vase with etching on the front. Thank you to the members of Hiring Our Heroes for this award. I'm deeply honored. I accept this award on behalf of all military spouses. Thank you, Horacio, and the members of Booz Allen for your leadership and commitment to hiring military spouses and veterans. Also, thank you to Mrs. Bonnie Amos. She was a military spouse leader for years, and if you know her, she has a wonderful sense of humor, and I want to thank her for that as well. Also, I'd like to say congratulations to the other companies who've committed to hiring veterans and military spouses. You're hiring a special group of men and women. Military spouses are resilient, they're responsive, they take initiative, they're problem solvers, they're organized. I could go on and on. This is a deep honor and privilege to accept this award on behalf of all military spouses. Thank you.
Dawn, General Golphin, we have a couple of minutes to get to know each other better, and I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. My first question is to both of you. I understand you moved over 20 times in a 35-year Air Force career. I was going to ask you how many boxes remained unopened from move to move, but instead, I think a better question. I was curious if each of you had either a favorite or most memorable duty station and why.
So to be exact, we've moved 23 times. We just committed our 23rd move, just finished our 23rd move. One would think we're really good at it. But it's funny, we do have one assignment where, and I think Dave will agree with me, it was when we were stationed in Italy, Aviano, Italy. My husband was a squadron commander then, and it was the first time I took on a position as a lead spouse. And because it was overseas, we grew very close to the members of the squadron, and they became our family. And then, of course, what's not to love about the Italian culture and the countryside? So I would say Aviano, Italy was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'd second that. And, we took the squadron to combat there. That was the fight in Kosovo. Mm. And, the playbook we got as a squadron command team didn't really talk about combat operations from home, where you'd go out and fly a combat mission and your family was right there with you. And I will tell you that brought the squadron even closer. Sure. And the spouses have better war stories than the military members in many ways. And so that for so many reasons is probably the highlight of a military career. There's nothing better than leading a squadron, and there's nothing better than leading a squadron in combat.
All our assignments were great ones. And I think having the right attitude toward each assignment makes all the difference. And for military families, we know we're not going to be in any one place for very long. And I think it helps if you take the attitude, we're going to make the most of this place, regardless of where it is, and enjoy it for the short amount of time that we're there.
Fantastic. Dawn, one last question. In your book, Sharing the Journey, you talk about the challenges of balancing being an elite military spouse with also being a teacher. And I was wondering what advice you have for the many military spouses that are juggling those responsibilities as we speak.
Yes, thank you. I think when we talk about balance, it's easy to think of it like a math equation. You know, you spend about 25% of your time on your family, 25% on the mission or your spouse's military service, 25% of the time on yourself and to care for yourself, and 25% of the time as a couple. If you look at it in a math equation, it doesn't work because every day presents its own challenges. I think for spouses, the best advice I could give you is to leverage the spouse network. Those connections that we make as spouses, one assignment to another, last for a lifetime. And I believe I'm a better person because I've had the privilege of being a military spouse for over 37 years. And the other piece of advice I'd give spouses out there is to learn to say no and ask for help, and also to let go of perfection. Keep your sense of humor above all else. And if that doesn't work, I think a handful of chocolate peanut M&Ms helps.
Speaking of sense of humor, you're really an inspiration, both of you. Thank you again for your service. Please accept our collective gratitude. And Dawn, congratulations on this very well-deserved award. It's so impressive. And with that, it's my responsibility to turn the program back to Tina. So Tina, over to you.
Congratulations again to Mrs. Dawn Goldfein. It's been a fantastic day. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. And as I leave you, I'm full of admiration and ambition for all of the military spouses out there. And for today's final thoughts, I'll turn the program back to Meredith Lazar, Military Spouse Program Director.
Thanks, Tina. And I echo the congratulations to Mrs. Goldfein. On behalf of Hiring Our Heroes, thank you for joining us today and for your work in advancing military spouse employment. To those who joined us for perhaps the first time, thank you for your support. And as you leave here today, know that we are not resting at Hiring Our Heroes. We remain committed to ensuring that organizations and military spouses continue to adapt, evolve, and lead. And we look forward to doing that work with you.